Hi and welcome, everybody. So I hope you're enjoying the day as much as I do. This is the beginning of a new series, and I did some other series before, and now I would like to go into the basics, just setting up the application, understanding how ExtJS is working, what the basic thoughts behind ExtJS are, and all these kind of things. And that should help you to improve the performance and where to start with ExtJS and how to start. And probably I will cover some things that you heard before, but now by realizing how to use them, that might help you to, continue in a bit different way. And this will be the first part, set up your first app with ExtJS. So let's take a look at that. So how do we start at installing, getting the sources and all these things? First of all, what you would have to do is go to the Sencha store, either get the free community edition or the enterprise version, and think about getting the Platinum support, which includes 24/7 access to community support from Sencha Forum, or you could go for the advisory and get a package there. So that might help your team a lot. If you're thinking about that, ask me for a pricing. Probably I can come up with something similar. And after you got your version, just remember in here with this enterprise version that there is let me just search for that. Here are some additional things in here. That would be the calendar and stuff like that. Remember, calendar being part of the enterprise edition, because now we are downloading, the first thing we're downloading is the Sencha command. And what that is for, I will explain that in just a tiny little bit. But first of all, you have to download this. And for Windows, I would always suggest with JRR included. And for Mac, there are different versions, because if you do have an M1, you have to download a different version, but I'll go into that right now. Because the next thing you want to do is head for support.sencha.com, download. And in here, what you want to download are the ExtJS sources. For the community edition, that's a bit different. For the paid version, head here and get the ExtJS version. And if you bought we were just talking about over here, the enterprise version, then you should also download the Ext Premium add-ons. That is important. And now, with both of these downloaded, you have to unpack them. So in here, I have the ExtJS version, and in here, I extracted them into my source folder. Next is you open the source folder, and you see here the packages. And with the Ext Premium add-ons from here, you will get the add-ons, packages, and inside packages you see the calendar, which I just mentioned before, and other stuff. So you just copy them, and paste them into the packages folder. And that's it. Then you're good to go with whatever you downloaded. So now you will have to install the Sencha command. And as I said before, there are more versions. In here, you can see there are these OS X ARM. You might have to use these if you do have a Mac M1. Otherwise, you're good, fine with all these other versions. And just see what else do we have here. Yeah. Okay, so all these versions are, if you can find them on the Sencha command download page, just go to the support page and download them from there. So now that we downloaded the Sencha command, we install it, and just make sure that during the installation process for PC, for Windows, you have to add the path. Once you install it, you should be able to launch the command Sencha. That's probably not the best one. Okay, let me just scale this up like this. And by running the Sencha command, you will get the Sencha command version and a couple of out-of-the-box commands you can use. App will be important, and we will talk about a lot of these. Cordova, if you're planning to do a hybrid app, you want to have Cordova support, all these things. So the first thing we are doing right now is we will generate a workspace. So let me clear this and call. Seems it's not really updating. Let me clear. Oh, here we go. Nice. Okay, so we are saying Sencha generate. And now we want to generate a workspace. So workspace. Why are we generating a workspace? I will explain that in a bit. For now, if you do have this Sencha generate workspace, you need to add a path, a relative path from where you currently are. And you have to start from the sources. It's easier to start from the source, you don't have to, but just follow me like that. So let me cd into my ext folder, which we just, let me see if I find that. I closed them. Okay, we just created this ext folder when we extracted it into my source folder. So we are heading right into that folder. From here, we will call Sencha generate workspace. Now we are getting out of the ext folder and we will generate an ext workspace. Whatever you like to name the folder where you want to place it into. Here I will go for ext workspace. And we will just generate this new workspace. So if you like what you see, please make sure that you leave me an abonnement. And let's head over while all this work is being on the while this is extracting, we will go for the documentation. So the documentation you will find at docs.sencha.com, ExtJS, and this is the latest version. What you can do is go up here and choose from ExtJS a different version, or go to the command tool if you're interested in more about that, or anything else you find in here, like Sencha Test if you're using that, Sencha Architect, Themer, all really important parts of what we are doing today. And therefore, you will definitely need these information. And we will start with the 750.1. And let me just maximize this for a second. Open this. Okay. So up here you have two buttons for classic and for modern. So if you're searching for modern, let's say for panel, you will find the modern panel. If you tag the classic, just waiting, the classic, and you're going for panel, you will find the classic panel in here. Yeah. So you see this little C up here means that is the classic part, because what you could do, you could tag both, and then you have modern or classic. In here you find a lot of guidelines From the start to the end, you find a lot, tons of guidelines, and you will find the API documentation, which is very valuable, and we will use it over and over during these classes, and because we find everything in there. You already see that I do have a long history in here because I'm regularly using it. And okay, so let's go back in here. Let me just move it back to here, to this side. Reps. I can't really grab it. That's because currently it's, oh no, it's no longer. So we did create our workspace, and our workspace consists of exactly this is so frustrating, of 3 items. One are the ext sources. So right now we can delete that folder. The second is the git ignore, and the last one is the workspace JSON. And right now we are going into the workspace because we want to create our first application. To do so, we are going cd ext workspace. It's just slowing down because it's currently indexing everything in here. Let me just stop this. So ext, where are we? Oh, sorry. We have to get out of our ext original sources and jump into the ext workspace. So cd ext workspace. So now we are right in here. Before we started in here, now in here. So now we want to create our first application, and that should be Sencha generate. And now we want to generate an application, so we're going for app. If you are unsure how to use it, just click enter, and you'll get a lot of free information. So it says, generate app requires a name and a path. So what we want to do is, we want to generate an application based on our ext sources. This is important to understand right now. We could have different ext versions. Right now, ext version of this one is 7.5.0.1. We might in the future have 7.6 or 7 whatever. And then we have to define where are our sources. As long as you're going for the ext folder itself, you're just pressing ---x. And then you have to add a name for your application, so my app. Now we have to add a path. My path will be from here, inside apps, and there I want it to be my app. For the naming, I always choose Pascal case, starting with a capital letter, and each word starts with a capital letter. And for the folder, it's all lowercase. But now you have, as you already heard something about modern and classic. Sorry for that. So we want to, this one is now modern toolkit, but we also could have, I'm always pressing up there, I'm sorry for that. We could also have the classic toolkit. And you can have applications which use both modern and classic at the same time, so that you have a single application which supports classic for desktop and modern for, let's say, tablets, mobile phones, and stuff like that. I recommend not to go this dual way. At the end, it will never pay. In the beginning, it might seem to be the fastest or quickest way to get to your goal, but on the long run, this is something that never helped me, and it doesn't help you to keep a clean version of your application. I will go into more detail about what I think is clean during the course. For now, just take it that I would go with a single version. So Sencha generate app. These are the sources. App name, path. And the last one is minus minus. Let's go with modern. And create this application. So that's basically it. It should be generating it really fast. Okay, so we have in here the apps folder with my app, and inside that we have different things. We will go into more detail. Just give me a second. The first thing I would like to do now is I would like to create a second application. And this is how I want to explain a bit more about workspaces. So let me create in here a second application, and I will name it second application as app. And this should be in the folder second application. Let's go. This one again is a modern version. I could have done a classic in here, minus classic, doesn't matter. And now you will see that we are getting a second folder in here. So what are the pro points of using a workspace? The first one is inside your workspace, you have this workspace JSON. And in here, you will have the ext. You remember we said minus ext? Exactly, this is the ext. And it is at the same time the path ext. But this one is what you reference to. So if I open my application in here and I go for the app.json, you will find that it says framework ext. So all these things are going together. This ext is what in apps.json the ext is, and what you type minus ext is exactly the same name as this one. So inside your workspace, you can have multiple framework versions and multiple applications. All of the applications may be of different framework versions. And so the first one could be at version 7.5, and the second one could be at 4. So you never really upgrade it to the latest version. At that point, you would have in here a second object, which says X3 version 3.4, something like that. And by having these workspaces, it's very easy to exactly know which app is at what version. And if you want to upgrade all versions at the same time, that's just very easy to do, having a single command to upgrade all your applications. So that is the next pro point at having a workspace, is that you just once need the sources. If you have different applications like I do in here too, both go for the same sources, ExtJS sources, and you do not have to have them multiple times. Then you do have a build folder, and within the build folder, currently I just have my app in here. I could build development, a testing, and a production environment. And I could have them for both apps or just for a single app. And so this is where your final build goes. We will talk about that later in a different tutorial. because you're just ending up with a single single JS file and CSS file, and everything is so minified so that your customers just have to download these sources once, and as long as the sources do not change, they will have the caged version and don't have to reload everything. And so now creating an application gets way faster because you do not have to recreate these sources over and over again. This is just the application itself. And now the next thing that we need is we do have to run a local server. Let's head over to our first application. The first application is cd apps and then my app. And inside that one, we want to run, let me just increase the size, Sencha app watch. This will, out of the box, build the current version as development, add a local storage server at port 1841. You could also say port 4040, whatever. You can add your own port if you like. I'm just going right now for the standard port, which is output right on the top. Let me just see. In here. So our port is 1841. So we can go over here and say, I want to go for localhost 1841, run that. And in here you see, I do have my build folder and my apps folder. Inside my apps folder, I'm going to my app. Though we were launching Sencha App Watch, inside my app, the server starts to run at the workspace level. Inside the app level, what the Sencha App Watch is doing, it's adding a watcher for the CSS files. So if we take a look in here, we do have an SASS file in here and in here. And if I change something inside these files, it will automatically regenerate the CSS sources from my changes. Now that we do have a running server, Sencha App Watch, we will take a look at the requirements. In my applications, I do have something like requirements font awesome. And you remember that we copied everything in this from this ext folder into this ext folder, and in here you can see under packages font awesome. So whenever we add a package and we want to use it, we have to add this inside the app.json to our requirements. This goes for font awesome in here. Font awesome is already built in everywhere in ExtJS. If you have a drop-down, you have this little button icon. That icon is a font, it's not an image. And I would recommend never ever to use an image but a font, because it's so much faster to just load a single font which is scalable instead of having multiple images. So with this requirement in here, we can use the font awesome package. In contrast to that, we do have in our app.js a requirement that says my app. This one says whatever is in my app folder should be required, which means it's built into the production build. Other than that, like in this list here, you might have requires my app store personal. So my app, I will explain that in a bit. Store personal. So This means that before running anything in this file, make sure that this class has already been defined. That is what requires means. So by placing on the top level in the app.js requirement of whatever is inside my app folder, we do not have to use this anymore. So let's clear that. Exactly the same functionality. Before anything inside my application runs, make sure all my files are loaded. And that's why we don't have to use that in the lists anymore. And inside my app.json, we have a couple of other things I would like to go over. This class path. The class path says whenever you call something my app, look for the file within myapp.app. Exactly this, myapp.app. That's why we do not write here myapp.app store, but only myapp.store personal. It's exactly the same. And that's for this. Now, what else do we have? In here, there are so many different things we will talk about in the future. The most important things are, if you want to load another JavaScript file, a third-party tool, something like that, you just implement it in here, and it will be automatically be copied or even wrapped within the app.js file that will be output at the end. So you do not have to think about it anymore as long as you place it into this JS array. The same goes for the CSS. If you have additional CSS, you just place it within this CSS part. There are a lot of different things we will talk about later on. For now, the only interesting one is the ID. By adding this ID, the application, before that I said that your customers just have to load the sources once, and as long as the sources do not change, they get the same, they get the caged version. The caged version is always based on this ID. Therefore, you want to make sure if you have different applications that you always have a unique ID in here. Okay, and let me look in my script what I wanted to talk about next. Upgrade, yes. There are several ways to upgrade your, let me just stop the server, clear and say Sencha upgrade. What it will do is this will upgrade my Sencha command to the latest version. If I say Sencha app upgrade, this will trigger the application upgrade. You want to make sure that you do have a new, let me just go back in apps, that you do have a newer version of ExtJS in another folder in parallel to this Ext folder. And then you could say, okay, I would like to upgrade to the version which is inside. And now let's just, we are currently in the apps folder. Let me just go back. In the workspace, we could say Sencha app upgrade. Now I want to go for 7.6 Ext minus 7.6, something like that could be what you would like to do to upgrade your application. And I guess, yeah, we wanted to launch my application. Now that I just stopped the server, it won't go work. Let me just go back here, cd apps, my app, and Sencha app watch. And as soon as my local server is up and running, I can press F5 in here, and it should be launching our Hello World app. Like this one. So we do have a couple of different things in here. Everything in here we will talk about in the future workshops. For today, I wanted to show you how to set up a new workspace, how to create any number of applications, and the basics on how you read the requirements. So that was in the workspace. You had the framework number, the framework version built in. And oh, we are missing one tiny thing. Exactly. So you already saw that we were talking about the packages, right? So we talked about all these different packages that come shipped with the Ext version. Now what we want is we want to create our own package. So let's go back to the workspace in here. And now let's clear this for a second and go Sencha. You're expecting the correct thing. Generate. Oh, I'm mistyping. Generate package. Now pressing enter. Let's see what happens. It says I'm missing a name. So okay, let's add a name. And I want to call this base. This will be for future sessions my base package. Let me create that. And right away, let me open and close this. Close this, open this. And here it goes package, local base. So local, you could have a remote package, which is built by a different division in your company, and they add it remotely. They offer to load it remotely. So this is the local package, which I do have on my machine in parallel to my apps folder. And this is my base package. If I want to use this, I have to go to my application, which should use the base package. Let me just open the package JSON, and it says the namespace is base and the name is base. The namespace is, if I open my application here, go to the view and say main, you already have this my app. In list, the first word is my app. So this is the namespace of my application. So the namespace of my package is base. Sorry, down here is base. Why can't I? Is base. And if I want to include it somewhere else, I have to use the name. The name and the namespace could differ. I would strongly recommend to have the same names for it. So now we want to include this to my main view. So we're going for the app.json. And in here, I'm just scrolling up all the way to the top, comma, and we just name it base. Now we can access the base package and use that for later usage. And if you want to use this, we either have to go inside our app.js and add base.star. Now all the files within the base package will be available from my application. I strongly recommend not to use this for your packages other than the base package. Typically, whatever is in the base package will be used for all my applications, and other packages are just used by a couple of applications and not all of them. So I definitely recommend to use this base, not here in the base is correct here. Otherwise, I would go here in my main view, for example, and say requires base.view.something. And this would ensure that before loading my main view, I ensure that this class has been loaded. So during our next session, I will explain a bit more about how to create a view, how to use a view model and a view controller, and why you should never ever go from one view controller to another view controller. So if you liked what you saw today, it would be awesome if you could leave me a thumbs up. And I hope to see you next week for the next video. And have a great day.